Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net. Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
Welcome to the podcast from Temperance Town, the sexiest podcast of world renowned. Tony grows a beard to hide his chin, swabs it with Earl so it glistens.
Salty, salty language, kings of the sexy frontier.
Download the pod, you won't get enough of these dapper chaps talking deadly fluff. In Hobo Gulch they run a homeless mission, clanging and banging with the pentagram of kittens.
Salty, salty language, kings of the sexy frontier.
They enjoy their whiskey and local craft beer. By Odin's unkempt pubis we give a cheer. Tony's a raccoon when he's booziest. Don't be a savage, be an enthusiast.
Salty, salty language, kings of the sexy frontier.
On the frozen tundra they call it a lock. Tony likes to masturbate in a sock. Brian pisses rocks cause it feels so great. I still don't know who the fuck is Tate.
Salty, salty language, kings of the sexy frontier.
The boys will let you know when there's a Spurler. Due to male pattern baldness, they don't wear curlers. Stay salty, people, that's their closing line. And don't forget, have a beer, you'll be fine.
Salty, salty language, kings of the sexy frontier. Salty, salty language, kings of the sexy frontier. Salty language.
Hey enthusiasts, what's happening? This is Salty Language, episode 377.
More Brian. More sexy. Yeah.
Once again, less Tony and more Heno.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Less Tony. Way more sexy. Just kidding, T.
Yeah. He probably won't listen. Anyway, yeah, so. You're good. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. Seems fair. I'll allow it. Oh, man. So, yeah. Man.
Howdy.
You know, it's interesting. I saw a couple of podcasts passing pretty big plateaus this week. I saw, well, first of all, you know, even though one of them's dead to me, I still want to congratulate Hobie on their upcoming 250th. You know, that's still a big deal. So, congrats on that, guys.
Podcasts.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only one of them that has any quality, but, you know, no, I'm kidding. I forgot, you were on how many of theirs? So, and Jeannie's been on a couple, so they've got a handful of quality episodes, so.
No, I've actually never been on their
what?
podcast.
Oh, well, wow, they should be dead to you. They've at least had me on once.
No, The dead guy has been on my podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know who you're talking about, but
Yeah. Did you see that, I don't know if you saw it on Facebook. It was, 2 Grim Reapers, and one of them's holding the hand of the other one and says, "That's it. You're alive to me."
yeah.
I freaking love that. That made me laugh.
Yeah.
Look, that's clever.
It is. Yeah. I like it taking the opposite side on that. Yeah.
There's been some good Halloween little memes out there that I've been enjoying lately.
Yep. Yeah, I've seen quite a few that have made me laugh a little bit at least. So, which is good because most of the ones that people post like that I see on Twitter, I'm like, I saw that on Reddit like a month ago. Yeah. So it's nice when I see some I haven't, so like I haven't been on Reddit as much. So, that they seem fresh to me, now when I'm seeing them on Twitter for the first time.
Yeah.
Or I haven't been on like Imager, either one, cause that's pretty much all I look at on those. I look at just like pic dumps of, just stuff like that just to make me laugh or sometimes just terrify me because, sometimes they're just the, like grab bag ones and you have no idea what they're going to be, and
Yeah.
like, oh wow, that's a pretty cool looking car. Oh my God, that guy's arm is hanging on by like 3 tendons.
Lord.
Yeah. So yeah, no good.
Fun.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, something came up. It was one of those, do you want to see this? I'm like, no. Oh man, now I saw it. I'm like, I really didn't want to see it.
Yeah. My favorites now are on a couple of the sites or the apps or whatever when they have this may contain sensitive material. Are you sure you want to watch it? And I'm like, of course. Like I always click yes, unless I know for a fact it's something I don't want to see. And most of the time I'm like, oh, this didn't need that warning, Yeah. Sometimes I get it because sometimes there's like a potential trigger of some sort on it, but most of the time it's just like there's a little blood or something. It's like, stop it. It's like, come on. I grew up watching wrestling in the 80s when like every Ric Flair match, he pretty much left in, looking like he was Hellboy, like a little blood ain't going to bother me.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I'm Henno.
Oh yeah, you are. Oh, I guess I'm Brian.
I'm back in business, baby!
That's my signature.
Yep. Here too.
Anytime I'm back on Salty Language.
Yep. Once again, to show off competent board work,
Yes. Hey, last episode, the energy level was much higher.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah, I felt like it was a return to
Old form.
Top-ish form.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no questions.
Right. Or at least it was close. Whichever.
Yeah, no,
good enough.
Good stuff. Well, you still had a little fade out at the end, so it felt familiar.
Right. Yeah, we don't, for anyone listening, we don't actually fade anything out at the end of the show. That's just what Tony does naturally, so it's, it's pretty awesome.
Oh, you mean that's not a plug-in?
No.
Edit?
Yeah.
Like, we're going to lower the Tony's battery level?
Yeah. Oh man. Would be great is if we ever do like a live show somewhere and just toward the end of it and people just start seeing him just nodding off.
Slouching in the chair and he starts nodding off.
Yep. Huh?
It's even better if you got like a fader on the side, like you're actually doing it.
Oh man.
Like your little marionette.
That would be fun. Be a good gimmick if nothing else.
Sleepy.
Yeah. Hey, aren't you tired? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All of these years we thought it was just Tony when it was Brian's power suggestion.
Yep. Here I thought I was only good at putting women to sleep.
Oh.
Nope.
Joe came down with 250.
Oh my. Yep, right on top of it.
Yeah.
I like it. Oh man. No, I've seen a couple other podcasts hitting like 500
Wow, really?
Yeah, I mean, they're bigger ones, you know, that put out like a couple, like the Chris Jericho podcast hit 500 this week and stuff. And what's interesting to me is when the bigger shows hit 500 or something, I'm always curious who their guests are going to be. And his was Paul Stanley. You know, cool. And it was actually, I haven't listened to it yet, but what they talked about was kind of interesting to me because he's supposed to be talking about the individual stories from the Kistery album. Mm-hmm. You know how each one is they each had their solo album on there. He's supposed to talk about each one.
I literally just got the Ace Frehley one today in the mail.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I just turned to look, but I already ripped it. Because it wasn't my first album, but it was the first thing that I went down and bought myself. It was my first cassette.
Okay.
My first. It was like, you know, because I was a kid, I was learning to play guitar, you know, and so I got the songbook, you know, with the chords and stuff, and then I went and bought the cassette. It was my first cassette that I ever bought myself, and it was just super Ace Frehley. And the one thing that, I mean, I grew out of Kiss in the 80s, you know, and I had friends that were super into them forever and ever and ever and ever, but it wasn't me. But, you know, I had a lot of vinyl and tape and stuff, but I realized that what I have digital, you know, what I have on my iTunes is rather sparse. And I also had a mix up one time. Something happened when I was transferring files over in iTunes where I ended up with my Rat Pack playlist, meaning Sinatra and, you know, all those guys, somehow got mixed with my Kiss.
Oh my God. I want that album so bad.
It is so funny because, like, you can click on Love Gun and it's, you know, luck be a lady tonight.
Tell me,
you know, like,
tell me you don't want an album full of the Rat Pack singing Kiss songs and Kiss doing a bunch of Rat Pack songs.
Yeah. And even stuff got mixed up where like half the song all of a sudden kicks in, you know, like where it's like you got Sammy Davis and it's like turns into Kiss. It was so weird.
Right.
Dean Martin, you know, Volare, Love Gun.
Yeah. This isn't Dr. Love at all. Yeah.
They call me.
Oh, man. Oh, I wish I knew somebody who did like the mashups and stuff. I want this so bad now. So bad.
Well, I'm going to have to check out. There's certain podcasts I just don't want to listen to just because I don't know. I've managed to avoid them so far.
Yeah, that's
but now I'm gonna have to listen to that one.
Yeah.
You know, here's the weird thing was like that. Like I had Ace, but I never heard the other ones. I mean, I was a huge fan of Peter Criss's makeup. Like I actually would do drawings and send them into like 16 magazine because they always had it on the back. They had like reader's art kind of thing, and I love Peter Criss, and so I do the Peter Criss stuff. But I never listened to their solo albums until like the mid 90s when I heard that it was the guys I was playing music with. They're like, oh yeah, you should really check out Jeans. It's not what you'd expect. And I'm like, really? I'm like, okay. So I checked out Jeans and I was like, wow, this is
all gangster
really
rap. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's from a Jewish angle,
right? Well, of course, yeah.
Of course, yeah, yeah, because it's all about money.
Oh boy,
yeah. I'm gonna go to hell this episode, I think.
Yeah, it seems right.
But yeah, and it's actually really good. Like, there's some great songwriting. Even Paul's, Peters is considered to be kind of the worst of all of them, but I was a huge Kiss fan.
Yeah. It's funny the whole time, like, every time you said Ace or Peter Criss, I, like, In the Garage by Weezer kept playing in my head.
Oh yeah.
When he talks about the posters on the wall, you know, my favorite rock group, Kiss.
Literally, my walls were nothing but Kiss.
Yeah.
I'm curious if my parents have a photo of that. Because like I would get like all 16 magazine and what other magazines, and I'd cut out every single photo and stick them on my wall.
It explains why you're always dressed like. Oh my God, I can't. Jeez, I just totally dropped it. Dropped the ball all over the place, man. Paul Stanley, Jesus, yeah. Did they say boo or boo earns? That's a boo earns. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and just in case anyone wants to know,
I'm not a racist.
Right. I'd hope not.
I just want to get that out of the way right now.
That'd be terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's funny.
That's kind of cool.
When I was a little children's, my sister.
When you were but a fledgling?
Yes.
You have to do it with when I was but a fledgling.
Right. Picture it. Sicily, 1970. No. My sister was a huge Kiss fan. And I remember, like, Gene Simmons scared the hell out of me. Like, when I would see the albums, you know? And then I heard their music and I was like, wow, this is worse than no, I'm kidding. No. But hey. I just didn't know what to think of them really until I saw like a video kind of a thing. And then I was like, what is going on here? Because, you know, again, I loved like cheesy horror movies. I love like the big like pomp and circumstance, you know, just the kind of just cheesy horror movies, all that kind of stuff. And Kiss kind of fits that kind of theater to where it's very much over the top and, you know, very cinematic and whatever. So, you know, I was more into that probably. I think a lot of people were, but you know, I was more into that than I ever was the music. You know, I've had my runs, you know, with Kiss off and on. I mean, my biggest Kiss highlight of my life always will be, and nothing will ever top this. They could ask me to join the band and it won't top the fact that I got to see Paul Stanley as Phantom of the Opera. So that, you know, that was freaking crazy.
Yeah.
You know, seeing half of that crowd dressed up like a night at the theater and the other half of the crowd in their leather or denim, and, you know, when Paul hit the stage and then people throwing the horns and Paul, you know.
So weird.
I know. It was so great. Cause again, you know how much I love seeing behavior. Yes. You know, human behaviors and stuff, and watching how people behaved at that was so great. Because there were, of the people who were there for the opera part of it, there were many who were like, what is going on? Who are those people? You know, because, you know, like, why do they have all this long hair and makeup on? And,
I mean, but basically what you described was the Metallica S&M.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Yes. I'm sure.
I mean, it was awesome. It really was awesome to just see the two cultures.
Right. And meanwhile, I'm like, whatever. If it's entertaining, it's entertaining.
Yeah.
And it was. It certainly was. I mean, cause, you know, Phantom was a good stage show. You know, it was a good stage show anyway. You know, it was my first time ever seeing it live. So it was, you know, and it was in Toronto. It was a beautiful, venue and everything. And I just the idea that it was Paul Stanley up there, it was hard to wrap your head around that, because it was Paul Stanley. You know? So I think people were expecting him to like break out in some crazy, like Kiss song or something at some point.
So in the middle of something. Yeah.
Like I was, you know, certainly wasn't going to happen, but you know, all I was hoping for was most of the way through. I was like, all I'm waiting for is for someone to yell, Paul, you rock. And I got it at the end of the show.
Quiet.
What is going on? You know, like when, you know, they're coming out for the curtain call or whatever, and, you know, various people are, Paul, you rock! You know? And I'm just like, there it is, bingo, I got my checklist, you know? It's just
Yeah, exactly. Bucket list complete.
so good. So good. Yeah.
Great. Now you got me downloading a Jericho episode.
Sorry. Well, you know what, though? He talks to a lot of, like, musicians on his show, too. So,
I've heard, yeah.
Yeah. I don't listen to most of them, but he does. I just have to pick and choose so many things, and I just listen to the wrestlers mostly. I've listened to a few musicians on his show, but not very many. I'm certainly not going to listen to any he sings on. That's for damn sure. But
he sings.
Oh yeah, he's in a band called Fozzy. F-O-Z-Z-Y.
Okay, this explains the whole music thing. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I think they're terrible, but that's you know, whatever. They have a following, which I'm sure is mostly because of the fact that, you know, global wrestling superstar Chris Jericho is the front man.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he sounds mostly like a guy who should be singing 80s metal, but whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's cool.
It's just not my cup of tea. I just haven't heard anything by them that I liked, but whatever, you know. You know, whatever. Yeah, he basically completely straight out, he was on the Kiss cruise, you know, like they performed on the Kiss cruise.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I should do this. So they're actually, it's pretty soon here. It's in like a week or two is the Jericho, it's something like the Rock and Wrestling tour, cruise or something like that. I forgot what it's called, but it's, they're actually going to set up a ring, like a wrestling ring on a cruise ship. They're going to have like a wrestling tournament. There's going to be stand-up comedy. There's going to be, various like bands performing.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it'd be a pretty fun thing to go do.
You know, I've seen lots of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's become really popular.
Yeah. And he said he thought the coolest part of the whole deal was the fact that like while you're walking around, it's like, hey, there's Kiss, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly. And that's what everyone says. The best part of it is that you can get close to the musicians and they're a lot more accessible. And especially when you consider that, you know, a lot of these bands have fans that are even older than them.
True.
And have been fans for like the entire time of their career.
Yeah.
So it's interesting when you hear these musicians in their interviews and they talk about like they're actually, they speak to some of their fans on a regular basis because even though when they were, you know, 20 something years old coming out and the fans were, you know, the fan at that point you had a distance between you and the fans, you know, and you had these autograph signings and you saw these same people all the time. You still wanted to maintain that mystique.
Yeah.
But after a while, you're like, wow, we've been playing music for 30 years and you're still here in the front row.
Yeah.
You know, we're family now.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's interesting when they talk about that, like they're like, there's just, they come backstage. They're there for all the shows because they've been around for so long.
Right.
And I think like on those cruises, it's really where that stuff comes together.
I think that's smart too, given the state of the music industry. I think.
Oh yeah.
I think this kind of concept, like making people feel like your family versus the mystique part of things, I think is a much better idea because people are going to want to keep giving you their money.
Yeah,
you know? Exactly.
And that's where it comes down to this thing where, you know, I've heard several people talk about, especially people that are in, where they're doing podcasting or something where they're trying to monetize and they look at, okay, what's the minimum amount of people that I need on a monthly basis that I can make a living in a career?
Yeah.
And the amount of people isn't really that big.
No.
And so if you can somehow create a connection with so many people that every month that you are, you know, providing them content and that they're willing to pay for.
Yeah.
That you can then make a living off of this.
Yeah. I remember Jay Moore talking about that a long time ago, how he saw podcasting as not necessarily a way to get rich, but it was a way of selling. Like if he was in a venue that had 1,000 seats, instead of only selling 500, maybe now he could sell 750 or sell it out. because of the podcast. And he's like, that's where I'm going to make my money. And then obviously, you know, his podcast has done very well. So, you know, he's sold advertising and various other stuff too. But, you know, and I was like, that I think is the smart way for guys like him and other comedians to look at it. 'Cause, you know, you're not going to just step into podcasting, even if you have a name, and just be Rogan, you know, or Corolla or Mark Maron. You know, you're just not going to be that unless, you know, you got to build that brand a little bit, you know.
Yeah. And Dean Del Rey was talking about that too, that same kind of concept. Oh, speaking of, it was on, was it the New York Times podcast, The Daily? I think it was. Anyhow, they had the guy, what's his name? Noam, that runs the Comedy Cellar that Louis C.K. showed up at.
Yes. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, so they interviewed him, and the reason that jogged my memory is because Dean Del Rey this week interviews him too. I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm pretty sure it's The Daily that they talked about the whole Louis C.K. thing, and it was I wasn't going to listen to the Dean Del Rey interview until I heard this. You know, because the Daily's like a 15-20 minute podcast or whatever it is. You know, it's just news, but they'll also feature something. And so they feature him, and they have an initial conversation with him, and then they do a follow up with him. And his point of view was, it was really, I thought it was good. I thought it was really, he really talked about that, the idea of like, you know, cause the interviewer pushed him. They said, well, all right, what if, you know, Bill Cosby did his time and showed up, and he's like, yeah, he wouldn't be welcome in the club. Yeah. And it's like, okay, so what's the standard?
Right. Cause Louis admitted that he did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, and he's like, I don't want to come between a performer and their audience. If there's an audience for the performer, and his whole thing was, is that night, cause he wasn't there when Louis showed up. He found out the next day. And his policy is this, is if somebody shows up that you don't like, you can walk out. Your tab is on the house.
Okay.
That's his whole thing.
Okay.
If at any time you feel like you don't want to be there, you are free to leave. You are not a captive audience, and I've got your bill.
Okay.
And I went, okay, I respect that. You know, cause he was looking at it from the standpoint of, you know, this gets brought up a lot about, you know, employers. At what point do employers, you know, start determining who they employ based on this and that? And he's like, basically his point was, but I'm not just an employer. This person has an audience.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Regardless, like he's like, it doesn't matter whether I employ them or not. If nobody shows up, they're not employable.
Right.
But am I the one to determine that, or is the audience the one to determine that?
Here's the tough part with what he's saying,
where does it
though.
come back on me? Yeah.
The tough part with what he's saying is if you advertise weeks out, Louis C.K., November 1st or November whatever day at the Comedy Cellar, yes, I agree with his point. Because then if people show up, he has an audience. But what a lot of these big acts do is they just show up, which is what Louis did. He just showed up for that night. It wasn't announced. He just showed up to work on some stuff. And as a result, people who are sitting there, maybe after Louis is, I don't know, whoever, Ron Funches or something, that you're like, ooh, I want to see him. Maybe you don't want to leave because you want to see the next guy, woman, whatever. You know, so you're kind of like, well, I guess I'll just sit here. You know, you kind of feel like you're a captive
for that moment.
So, you know what I mean? It's like, there's gray area, moving parts, however you want to look at that there, to where I see what he's getting at, but I think there's a little bit of a blanket there that he's kind of operating under that needs to be kind of pulled back and, you know, exposed a little bit there too. Again, like I said, if you advertise weeks in advance Louis C.K. and then it sells out, boom, sells out, that's up to him as a business owner to make his decision there. Yeah. If he puts up that same sign and people pick it outside and no one wants to buy tickets, much like happened to Bill Cosby. Remember, he was still on tour when all this kind of came to light, and a bunch of people picketed, people weren't buying tickets, and they were like, look, we're going to cancel Like, we're not, you know, other places started canceling his appearances. And, you know, so that was the same thing. It's like, that's the best way to get through to some, you know, a business person is to say, hey, we're not going to buy your whatever. And in this situation, like I said, though, he just shows up. You're sitting there expecting whoever to come up next because that's what the sign said, you know, and out walks Louis C.K. and you're like, you know, like, do we leave?
But that club is based on that.
Also, oh no, I get that. I totally get it. Yeah. And honestly, before you even said anything, I almost could have guessed what his standpoint was because I've listened to a bunch of podcasts with him where he's talked about various stuff. And, you know, he's always been friends with the really controversial comics as well too. You know, like Louis Norton, Amy Schumer, you know, those kind of comedians too. Because back when they used to do a podcast from the Comedy Cellar where it was like the back table from there, like Louis would like never come on the podcast. Like he was always there, but he'd never, like I think they got him on once and it was in passing basically. So it's like he's been friends with a lot of them too. And so in my head, I'm kind of like, that doesn't, you know, if anybody knows him, you kind of know he's had a really good relationship with Louis over the years because I'm sure Louis made him a lot of money. But still, yeah, anyway, I can see either side of the argument there though.
Yeah. And you basically kind of nailed it that he operates in this gray area. And he even said at one point, he's like, I wish I could be candid with you, but I can't.
Yeah.
Like I can't tell you how I really feel because it could come back at me.
Yep.
And that was interesting. But if anybody wants to check out, it was The Daily. It was, so his name is Noam Dworman, and he, owner of the Comedy Cellar. And, so it was the New York Times, The Daily Show. If you look it up, it was, I'm not going to give the day because just look it up for Louis C.K. on The Daily.
Yeah. I'll try to find it and put it in the show notes. Or if you have it, send me the link, whichever.
Yeah, I'll do that. And so but it did make me want to, having listened to him, it did make me want to listen to Dean Del Rey's interview with him.
Right.
Because I wasn't going to listen to it at first, but then I'm like, okay, well, this is more than just some guy talking about just straight comedy.
Yeah.
There's going to be some other stuff in it, which I think is interesting.
Also, I'd like to hear him talk with, like, Dean being a comedian. I'd like to hear I'd like to hear that conversation more than with somebody from the New York, the Times, I think you said, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because even though he'll still probably be very careful, he's more likely to be a little more candid with Dean than he is with the New York Times. Because if he's, you know, just because he's probably going to feel like he can tell the truth, like that Dean will understand. You know, his audience is going to understand what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, with the Times, he may feel like they're looking for a way to blow it out of proportion.
Yeah, and you could tell that he was being very careful because of that. And I think I personally respect, one reason I listen to the Daily is because I think they are respectful of their interview, you know, who they're interviewing, especially when it comes to controversial stuff. They're going to ask the right questions and they're going to push the buttons, but they're also not going to just take somebody completely out of context and be unfair with them. Yeah. But if you're a complete fucking jagoff, they're going to let you be a jagoff.
Right. Yeah.
You know, if you're going to go onto a podcast and be a jerk and they're a news, I mean, they're going to let you be a jerk.
Right. But like you said, I can understand though, on as much as I hate to feel, because I feel like I'm defending the wrong kind of person, but I can understand him not wanting to be candid because the nature of that industry is to push boundaries and say the wrong thing a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
It is.
And as a result, he's smart to just not come out and say Louis is a piece of shit, you know, or, hey, I don't think what Louis did's that bad, or I think he's paid his penance, or, you know, like anything, whatever his opinion might be, you know. I think he's smart to just, because if he says that, then it gets, you know, then he's going to have a whole different issue on his hand. Either way, you know?
He brought it up, but it was like you said, it's in that gray area kind of way where you just bring up the question rather than the answer.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Does a person who's done, you know, who has actually done their time, do they have a right to make a living again?
Yep.
And then it's like, well, who determines that? The employer, or in this case, the audience?
Well, that's the other thing that's interesting here, is because semantically, who truly is the employer?
Well, that's,
is it the audience, or is it cause comedians are essentially, like contractors, you know?
Yeah, in a way. Yeah.
So technically, yes, he's the employer because he's the one that directly pays them. But it's at the same time, like you said, if there's nobody coming to the door buying tickets, he's not going to ever call that person to whatever. So there's an element of, it's kind of both, you know?
In a way, yeah. Cause think about it. He ends up he acts like a gatekeeper.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's the question he's asking.
He's like a headhunter. Yeah, he's a headhunter is what he is.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
You know, like for temp agencies, he's essentially like the temp agency person, you know? Like he will bring like, oh, you need a comedian for tonight? Okay, I got your guy right here, you know, and that kind of a thing. And then, but like I said, it's like, I can understand, given the nature of that business, why you would kind of just be like, you know what, and who knows how other comedians feel, because maybe some of the people who bring in bunches of money for him, maybe they just have stayed out of what their opinion is, but maybe he knows how they feel. So maybe if he says how he feels and it conflicts with their opinion, maybe they don't want to do his club anymore. You know, it's why I said right, wrong, or indifferent. You know, as a businessman, it's his decisions and stuff. I'll definitely listen to the Dean. I'll probably listen to both, especially with the other one being a short listen too. But
yeah,
cause I'm very curious, cause, I used to love listening to that. Like I said, that podcast they did from that back table, cause it was like a murderer's row of the top comics, you know, and it was just them sitting around bullshitting, just busting balls and stuff like that. It wasn't anything real. You know, it wasn't like an interview situation or anything. They were just sitting around, just
shooting the shit,
the shit. Yeah. So,
yeah. One thing you just reminded me of real quick was you know, cause you were sharing with me a lot of who was on the Tim Ferriss podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally got to listen to the Jamie Foxx ones, which just blew me away. I mean,
that's such a good listen.
Idea the depth of that man, you know, but the one thing he shared about as far as comedy was about, knowing your audience and having, you know, he's kind of asking about the failures. And he talked about going in front of this audience it was like a whole bunch of kind of upper class white people. And he gets up there, you know, and he's the warm up act and he's just freaking bombing. I mean, just bombing.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally you know, he gets off. He's like, wow, I'm glad I survived that one. Like nothing went over because he was doing basically his fucking hood shit, you know?
Right.
Right. And then he says that, so then the headliner comes up and it's literally like the cook in the back. Because he was expecting like some, you know, some white dude.
Like Jerry Seinfeld to walk out. Yeah.
Exactly. And instead, literally the cook comes out, takes his apron off, you know, gives him a little, hey, you know, good job, blah, 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 gets up there and starts doing dad jokes. So it's a black man, a cook, in front of a bunch of white, you know, middle class, upper class folks, and he's doing black jokes or dad jokes and killing it, like killing it. The audience was just, and so that's when Jamie shares about how he's like, and from that point on, I decided he's actually purposely went to certain communities like way out of the middle of nowhere and tested material on them all,
which is so smart. Yeah.
So smart. Mm-hmm. He'd go into an inner city, into a comedy place and test material on them. Yeah. And he'd go into a suburb and where it's primarily a white audience and he'd test material on them. Yeah. And he'd see, okay, this works here. This works here. Okay. I will never be gotcha'd again. Because
Yeah.
that's what happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
He went up and did his thing, and he felt like a jerk because he's like, wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, because you're doing material people can't identify with.
Exactly, and that
You
was
know?
his point. Is like, does anybody understand this joke?
Yeah.
And it was interesting to talk about what he was surprised of, what, like, let's say the black audience, what they understood versus the white audience, and the differences. Like, even his own preconceived opinions were wrong.
Yeah.
And what he assumed.
Right. Yeah, that is, especially if your goal is to have material for everybody, if you're going to stick to certain lanes, it's a different story, but this allows you to play anywhere, cause you can have different, you can have like, okay, I'm playing this crowd tonight, so I'm going to pull these jokes out and put these jokes in for this show because they play better with this crowd or whatever, and move them around. I've heard other comedians do that too, where they'll talk about, or if nothing else, like sometimes they'll be like, hey, I'm doing a business, event. So they're like, I have to pull this section of jokes out because either they're dirty or, they're just too edgy, so I put in these jokes, which are a little more, like you said, like these are more like dad related material or whatever, that everybody can identify with, so that this set fits, or I'm doing, not Letterman, geez, doing Colbert or whatever now, and, so you move a couple sets around, it makes a ton of sense to just be able to be versatile a little bit, because that makes, like I said, that makes it to where you can go, okay, any job that's open I can look at versus, oh, this is at like that kind of event. Oh, I don't have anything for that demographic, so I guess I'm not doing that job, and.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of the
That's
thing.
just
Like,
silly.
I want to be entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to suck.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you don't want to, like I said, you don't want to just be entertaining to, a small segment when you have a chance to be entertaining to a larger group of people.
Yeah.
I mean, look, every comedian I've ever, just about that I've heard, talks about how much they hate corporate gigs, but they all take them because they pay so much money.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why, like some guys, it's not as big of a deal. Jerry Seinfeld can go do any of his jokes at a corporate gig.
Yep.
Jim Gaffigan can do most of his jokes at one oh man, I can't think of his name. Brian Regan, the guys like that can go do them because they're all clean, Other comedians, it's a little harder because their whole act is just dirty, like it's just not going to happen. Like nobody was hiring Bill Hicks or Sam Kinison to go do corporate gigs, unless they knew what they were getting into,
True.
I can't imagine Dice going to do a gig, but, but it's the same idea though. It's like I said, it's like, or if you're going on TV, you've got to have something
that's it.
Works on TV, you got a couple of minutes and that's all you got, So yeah, that's a great episode of that podcast. If anybody hasn't listened to it, you really should. Like I said, it's a really good podcast. Almost every week. There's some weeks I don't get a lot out of it. There's other weeks where it just really hits home because he deals with a lot of the same stuff that I deal with. Like he's got a lot of anxiety, that he talks about, and he's tried all sorts of different ways to deal with. And, sometimes it's just interesting to listen to some of the episodes just to see what he puts himself through. Over the years and stuff. So, but some of his interviews have just been amazing. It's like just recently over the last few I've listened to, I found out that he's that for years he made a living as an illustrator. I didn't know that for a long time. And I've never seen any of his art. And then when he got to talking to, Terry Crews about it, because Terry Crews is a legitimate artist. If anybody out there has not seen Terry Crews' art, look it up. That guy is a legit artist. When they were talking about it and Tim Ferriss was like, maybe I'll start putting something up like once a week to kind of get back into it. Cause he barely does anything anymore. And, I was like, huh. I was like, and he said for the longest time he wanted to be a comic book artist. And he said one of his dream gets for interviews would be Jim Lee, who's a guy I was, was a huge fan of, cause all through high school, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a comic book artist, and Jim Lee was one of my favorites. And I'd love to hear Tim Ferriss sit down with Jim Lee and talk, cause Jim Lee has done all sorts of stuff. He's been an editor at DC, type of thing. He's had his own company. He worked for Marvel as a penciler for years. He's drawn Batman like 8 bajillion times. Mm-hmm. He's done a lot in the industry. And, it's an interview I'd love to see. So as soon as I heard him mention it on there, I was like, ooh, I got on Twitter and I was like, please make this happen, mention both of them in the tweet because, in the hopes that more people did that too, in the hopes that if enough people did it, that they'll both be like, oh, maybe we should make this happen,
Yeah.
So, it surprises me that he hasn't made that happen though, but even when he talks about it, he talks about how he's too nervous to approach Jim Lee. Tim Ferriss is worth tons, he's worth a bunch of money. He's incredibly well known by billionaires. You know what I mean? He's in the upper echelon of, he's in the crowd everybody wants to get into kind of a thing,
Yeah.
In the people who know how to invest and what to invest in and all this other stuff. And Jim Lee probably knows various people and stuff too, but it's dude, Jim Lee's a big deal in the comic book art world.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, he's a big deal to a lot of people, but I don't know that it's comparable, but it's always interesting how people elevate, and that's what I loved it. The first comic convention I went to, there's a guy named Mark Silvestri that I was a fan of, or am a fan of, whatever. And when I met him, I was like, oh man, I was like, this, nice to meet you. I was a big fan of blah, 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 and he's like, it is so amazing. He's like, I've been doing this for years. And he's like, I can't get over why anyone wants to meet me. He's like, I'm just some guy. He's like, I draw pictures, and it's funny because so many of the artists I met are like that. They're just so I'm just some dude,
Yeah.
And, you've got people 300, 400 people in a line waiting to just get something signed by him, So, yeah. Anyway, that's a weekly Tim Ferriss plug.
Podcast wrap up.
Yeah, I was trying to think if there's anything else I've been listening to recently. I've kind of trailed off a little bit on podcasts this week, though. So, I think I mentioned on last week's show that I was kind of hitting a point where I might have to kind of do that and listen to some music again.
Oh, speaking of music.
Yeah, let's talk about some music. Because I sent you a recommendation that caught me by big surprise. I was listening to my Spotify Weekly, which for the last 2 times I've listened to it has pretty much been here's all of the Latino music for some reason. And I'm I don't know. I don't know why. I don't listen to anything. I don't know why. So I was so I've been going through I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, right? Finally this week, Spotify was okay, well, how about this? Here's all the songs from high school. Which I've told Heno this already, but I got a lot of Dinosaur Jr. and Kurt Cobain and Temple of the Dog and Alice in Chains, even though it was a new Alice in Chains song, but still it was Alice in Chains,
Yep.
And stuff like that, which I was cool, on a lot of, Audio Slave was on there, which that wasn't high school, but still, yeah. Everybody involved in that was something I listened to in high school, so, but then this one guy comes on that I'd never heard of before, and when it first started, I'm like, what the hell is this? And I apologize if anyone happens to know and I say this guy's name wrong, but it was Mishka, is it Shabali?
Yeah.
And I described him, how did I describe him to you, Heno? I was like, he's not going to win any, or his music won't win any beauty contest, but he sounds like, an old ashtray or something.
Ashtray, yeah.
But his lyrics are freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And
his quality is just,
you gotta give him a minute to grow on you. Cause you may not, right away, you may not grab you, but then as you start really digging into his lyrics, something's probably gonna grab you and be like, that's a good line.
Yeah, exactly. And there's an honesty level to it. The quality isn't the best.
Right. That's why I said his music's not gonna win any beauty pageants, you know?
But what's great is he's got videos on YouTube, which I thought was amazing. Mm-hmm. And I spotted a cameo right off the bat. And I was like,
did.
Huh, that's interesting. But it's fun to hear something that is more indie and, you know, more indie that to me that just grabs right away.
Right? Like,
I like that.
The second song of his I listened to, I can't remember what the name of the song is now, but I told Heno, I said, it's got one of my favorite lyrics in it, which was, it's something along the lines of like, the potatoes in the sink didn't turn into vodka like I thought they would. And I was like, that is such a good line. That's such a desperate, like, I'm out of money, I'm out of booze, I was hoping this would ferment kind of a thing, you know? It's so good. And really, from what I read of this guy, it sounds like he's led a pretty rough life before he kind of, really, launched his musical career.
Yeah, and it's not, you know, there's a lot of people that are in this genre of kind of music where it really is about almost like poetry. Mm-hmm. It's not so much about the quality of the vocal.
I described him to someone else as though he was singing his blog. Cause that's what it felt like to me, is cause again, it's just so raw and it doesn't feel refined, you know?
Yeah, it's true. But the thing about it is, it's not like, one of the reasons I think it's honest is it's not like he's trying to be Tom Waits.
No, and it didn't feel pretentious at all to me. Like, it didn't feel like the lines he was using were like he's trying to be artsy or flowery.
Yes.
It just felt like this is just, like, he just threw that phrase in there because that's exactly what he was thinking right then, you know?
Yeah. And it's in that Tom Waits kind of school of delivery and that kind of stuff, but he's got a clean voice. You can understand what he's saying, which is bonus.
Yeah.
And there's some decent melodies too. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a fun little, I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the thing is I listened to Death in Greenpoint or Death in Greenpoint. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I listened to Don't Cut Your Hair. Which I love that hook, which is the don't cut your hair. I think it's like, isn't it like, it's the only thing I liked or something like that, you know? And, or it's the only thing about you that I liked or something along those lines. And, you have to hear the rest of the song for the context. Like that line becomes great with the rest of the context of the song. But it was just funny cause like each song, I listened to the first song and I'm like, okay, that's kind of, you know, so I listened to the second one and I was like, all right. And then it's like each time I was like, I kind of want to hear another song and another song. And, you know, like I said, it wasn't the music that was necessarily grabbing me, pulling me through. It wasn't like, man, you got to hear these beats, you know, or, you know, it wasn't like I didn't hit Heno up and was like, dude, the jams on this, or, you know, it was like, you got to hear this guy's lyrics. Like I loved it because I haven't had anyone lyrically kind of grab me like this in a long time. You know, so much of it just feels so freaking like you're trying to be so, like there's just so many like metaphors and shit, you know, being used in music. And it's sometimes my writing style's always been pretty much just this is brutally honest. This is how I feel. And that's what I liked about this, is it was just like this, you know?
Yeah. But it wasn't like, hey, check out how clever I could be.
Right. Yes. That's exactly what it was. Is it felt really clever, but it wasn't.
Like, I'm trying to be clever.
By the way, it was really funny because it says people also searched for Doug Stanhope, and that's a great comparison if you know who Doug Stanhope, the comedian, is.
It's an interesting comparison.
Because Doug Stanhope is this kind of comedian that he just tells you the most depressing jokes. And the thing is, most of the time when you talk to him, he's telling you the truth. Like, he doesn't really, like, you know, that's why, again, going back to Louis C.K., if you can put aside the other stuff about Louis, if you ever watch the episode of Louis that was on FX, where he has Doug Stanhope on there, where Stanhope wants to commit suicide, it's one of the darkest things I've ever watched, but it's really powerful, and from what I've read, there's some element of, like, that really is Doug Stanhope in the episode. It's really fucking dark, though. And he couldn't have picked a better person for that spot. You know, so, anyway.
Yeah, I fell into this.
Oh, go figure, this guy's a fan of the Pogues, too.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Right? Yeah.
So I'm not really into Cookie Monster voice metal that much.
Right.
Mainly because I actually like melodies.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I am going to listen to Cookie Monster metal guy, the guy, you know, like my early, I mean, Fear Factory was, that's my jam when it comes to that, you know, style of industrial, just super syncopated and just angry. But the reason I loved it and it became its own genre is because he would then sing clean choruses, and he would have really great melodies and harmonies and that stuff. And that, you know, there's a lot of bands that have taken off from that style. But there's this whole, and it's fun now for me to see, like, to pop in a band that really excites me and see that they're like literally 18 or 19 years old.
Yeah.
Because they look so young to me. And,
right.
and like, it's just a little bit like, okay, wow. You know, I almost feel like wrong that I'm listening to this because it's like, that's like,
right.
But they're good. And there's just this passion. And I just love seeing that metal is still important. So I don't even know how I fell on it. I'm on iTunes, and I think it was like a promoted band, and they're called The Human Condition, and their song, the song that I saw was called Selfish Love, and they've got a guest vocalist who does the real hardcore, doom metal kind of stuff. And I could not stop listening to this, and I ended up downloading a bunch of it because it's my gym music. I mean, it's fully in my alley. So since I do have the soundboard hooked up, I'm going to actually play a little bit of this.
Oh my God. Sorry. I have to interrupt you really quick. He's got this guy, this Mishka Shabeli. First of all, the part of the reason why he's associated with Doug Stanhope is he opened for Doug Stanhope for a while. He does comedy.
You gotta be kidding.
He does comedy as well.
Wow.
He has a shirt on his site that shows this woman in like leather gear riding on this like horse looking person thing. And the line underneath it says, if my heart was a horse, they would shoot it. I might need this shirt.
I think you might.
I might need that shirt.
That's great.
Sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
Well,
Yeah.
I love that. That's hilarious.
Oh, he has some thoughts.
Doom. Anyhow, Shut up. Quiet. Quit starting over. Where's the pause button?
There isn't
anyhow, it was seriously like I sat there. It is not the music I like.
Right.
I've never liked that music, and I started watching this video, and maybe it's because it was just video related.
Could be, yeah.
But I just saw like some musicians that were really committed to what they do and doing it well.
Yeah.
And like I threw that stuff on and hit the gym,
Right.
and I was en fuego.
Yeah.
And
I used to
they have some
love
other
drawing to that kind of music. Like when I was doing stuff for like graphic design, like a lot of times if I had a bunch of thumbnails to kick out, you know, if I'd have to do like 100 or 200 thumbnail sketches, I'd put on something like that and I just, you know, just go. So,
yeah, and they had some great other, just very, I mean, just like I said, even just kind of like more industrial kind of sounding, where it almost sounded like they had like the synthesizers.
yeah.
And it's just weird. It's because you and I talk about all the time about how everything starts to sound the same after a while.
Yeah.
And nothing comes, and especially with a lot of the quote unquote new metal stuff where it's just like, oh my God, it's so formulaic.
Right.
And I'm like, there is just nothing formulaic about this. And I was just like, I'm good. So I'd like I said, downloaded a whole bunch of it, took it to the gym with me, and I was like, this is great. And it's weird to find something that's so angry and aggressive and being like, oh, how refreshing.
Yeah. Right.
Right? Like, there's just nothing appealing at all. And I was like, I love this right now. And like I said, I've never really been into that genre at all. Most of it just kind of like, I'm like, yawn.
Yeah.
You know, in a way it's formulaic, you know, cause it's all, you can't distinguish anything to it. And I really think that it just reminds me, it's not always just the music, it's the musicians too.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I liked what, you know, when you sent me this, again, it was like, this guy is not the greatest singer, but his passion in his lyrics and his...
Well, it's funny now because now that I see he's also a comedian, now it adds a level to it.
Exactly.
Because now it kind of makes me, you know, it's like, so now it's like, is there a level of, you know, kind of thumbing your nose at everything with this, or is this a big work kind of a thing?
Okay, yeah, is it a tongue in cheek?
I'll be honest though, I still don't care. I like it. I still enjoy it. So.
Well, now the whole cameo kind of makes me laugh a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, okay, why is that guy playing drums?
Right, and it does. It makes a lot more sense now. Yeah.
You know, or is
it said on his bio that Adrian, oh shit, what's his name? The actor, Adrian, was it Grenier or whatever?
Yeah.
That actually played drums on one of his singles. So, you know, that's probably what it is. He just, you know, randomly, like his bio on his Twitter says best-selling author, songwriter, shit talker, and hopeful nihilist. So
that's brilliant.
Yeah, he has a book too. I didn't see, so I'm gonna have to look into that. And he has a note on his page here that says something about a podcast, and it's like, dude, if this guy's got a podcast, sign me up. I'm in to listen. But
you're in the rabbit hole, dude.
Dude, you're not kidding. I looked to see if he was touring anywhere nearby because I'd totally go see him.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was like with this band because this guest vocalist was in all these other bands and he'd guest vocal, you know, he'd guested on all these other bands, and all of a sudden I'm in this freaking YouTube, you know, rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And then there's just like, there's them on tour in a bus, or I mean in a van. And I mean, we're talking the old, like what I did when I was a kid, you know, and going out and touring. And it's like people, you know, starving for their music, and then seeing what was really interesting is seeing them playing in front of like high school kids at like an all ages show in a gym somewhere on some little makeshift stage. And the sound isn't all that great, but it's right. It's still them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh, and now here's our video where we look produced, you know, and it just reminded me of Metallica and Kill 'Em All when that first came out and what they looked like on stage. And like when Ride the Lightning came out, they still were on these small stages.
Right.
And it was very rough, but then you get the production brought in and everything. And it's just like, and it hooked me back then in the 80s.
Right.
And, you know, and here to be
good to see they never changed that.
Yeah.
Or now their stage is like the size of a baseball field.
Yeah. Oh, it's too funny.
Anyway, so but going back to like the other guy, I'll have a link to his stuff. And you said, what was the other band? The Human Condition?
The Human Condition. Yeah, I really dug them. Okay. Here's the problem. But if you can, I know it's shocking to imagine that there might be more than one band called The Human Condition.
What? Yeah, right.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, there were way too many.
Way too many bands thinking that they're clever by naming their band The Human Condition. Yeah. Yeah,
and the best part is when it comes up I went on to, you know, iTunes. And the two bands that came up, one was a metal band. They were both under rock, but one was obviously a metal band, and the other one was literally like some pop band. Like, what the hell?
Oh, I'm actually surprised there isn't the first thing you didn't get was like an emo band, because that seems like an emo band name, you know?
Yeah.
So all right. Well.
But yeah, the single, the song that. It was called Selfish Love, and I thought it was pretty good too. Selfish Love by The Human Condition.
Huh. All right.
If you're into the metals, and it's like, it's just funny. I'm like, I have literally never listened to the doom metal ever. And I'm like, maybe it must be my mood.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it falls into like, it could have been an Alice in Chains, or it could have been a whoever, but it was, you know, some doom metal. I was in the right mood for it. Yeah, at one point Sharon's in the kitchen. She's like, "What the fuck are you listening to?" I'm like, "I can't stop." I kept listening to the sample.
Yeah.
You know, on iTunes or just a little bit, and I'm finally like, I just got to buy this.
Yeah. I used to do that like when I was in school, like I said, for design, you know, and I'd be sitting in class and I had my headphones in, you know, or my earbuds in, you know, and I'd be sitting there just kind of banging my head while I'm drawing, you know, and be like, "What are you listening to?" And I'm like, "You're not going to like it," you know?
Exactly. You're not going to like it.
I don't know. It has some sort of weird graphic. I can barely even read what band name it is. It's, you know.
Totally. It's that same freaking album cover. You're like, what the fuck does that say?
Yeah. All I know is it's killing me right now, dude.
It kind of looks like a Viking, but a deer, but he's like, you know.
Right. All I know is it's going.
Funny. It's so true.
Love it. Oh man,
good stuff.
So, well, I guess let's get to real quick before we get too much further here.
I know, like we're so segued.
I know. So, how's your week been?
Oh, God.
We didn't even do that part, so let's do that real quick.
Yeah.
Good. Moving on. No.
Yeah, exactly. Bitchin'.
Yeah. Who cares? No.
Bitchin' Bob. Yeah, I went and had my interview with the mayor, which is kind of fun. I never met the mayor for the city council vacancy, and
McCheese, right?
It was so great to just go in there and just be me, and then afterwards go to across the street to my favorite diner, and some of my friends were working that day, you know, people that I know, and one of them's she's the chair of the planning commission. And I was like, it was so great to go in there, just not give a fuck. And she's like, good for you.
Right.
You know, like to have no attachment whatsoever, and just, you know, it's like, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know, so that was kind of cool. But man, the fucking emotional hangovers, man, I just still, like, when I put myself out there like that into I mean, not like it's a vulnerable position, but it's still like, it's not like I've had 2 jobs my whole life, pretty much 3 if you count the music studio that I started at. I mean, really, other than some summer gigs, you know, working at a camp, I've literally had 3 employers pretty much. So it's not like I've gone and done a lot of job interviews, or, you know, like when I walked in, they're like, "Do you have a resume?" I'm like, "No."
Yeah.
Cause I mean, you know, what do I have to say? You know, it's like,
I know what you say to them. You go, do you know who I am?
Who I am, exactly. Don't you know who I am? Well, you should. I campaigned for this fucking position a year ago.
That's right.
What, you weren't paying attention?
Yeah.
Fucker.
Like, I don't remember you.
But it was really nice because we talked a lot about, it was interesting, the mayor and the city administrator, Heather, they're also first generation Americans. So their parents were immigrants, just like mine were. And it was kind of fun. We talked about things like that instead, you know, and some, not so much about like, you know, like town policy stuff, but yeah, it was great. And then, you know, when I got some food and I came home and I'm like lying, I just kind of crashed out on the bed real quick and I got my dog, you know, Jax is, you know, he just got his hair cut and he was all fuzzy and fluffy and he's sitting next to me and all of a sudden here comes Bogart, literally just knocks him out of the way and gets him. It was a riot. I wish I had it on video because it's just Bogart. He's just all 38 pounds of just like, move, fucker. And Jack's at this moment where he's like, I'm staying here. I'm not going anywhere. And eventually he just gave up, you know.
Wow.
And it's just, and so Bogart's now just, I posted, you'll find it on my Facebook page. He just nestled themselves in my arm and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm taking a nap. So I kind of fall asleep. TV was a little too loud, but I still fall asleep. And at one point I rolled over and I woke up and I had the full on drool job down the chin. I mean, it was, I can't tell you the last time I did that. I mean, full drool. And, so today was pretty much like I did nothing and I did not care. I had some yard work to do. My neighbors were doing yard work, my neighbors wanted to bring a trailer into their backyard again, which I'm great. I got to look at this all winter long. But the one thing that was cool is they came over and knocked on the door. You know, like I could tell what they were about to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know they're bringing that damn fucking trailer in. I'm like, just come over and knock. And they did, which I was like, cool. You know, I'm like, hey, knock yourself out. Go right through the front. They're like, oh, we're going to take this tree out that's dead. I'm like, even better. You know, it's technically on my property. I'm like, yeah, I'd see it gone. Do you mind if we take it out? I'm like, no, knock yourself out.
Yeah, right.
Bring your trailer through. And do you mind if I put Christmas decorations on it so it's not so fucking hideous all winter? But yeah, had just a good week, you know, played music and, it was kind of interesting. Had my parks and lands committee this week and some other stuff town related. And, you know, just again, my life doesn't change much on a week to week basis, but there's enough to keep it interesting, I guess. And I like it that way. It's nice to feel satisfied with where I am in the world, you know, it's like, and the only reason I say that is because I spent so many years like feeling like the grass has to always be greener or anxiety or fear or whatever it is. And I know I'm like segueing into like a crazy life segment. But it's the truth, you know, it really is. It's like when there's a reason I was an alcoholic. I was not, you know,
right.
I was not comfortable in my own skin half the time. So blotto,
right. Yeah.
You know, let's take all the feeling away, you know, so to just feel, you know, to have just a week, which for most people is probably normal. And I'm just like, awesome. It's nice to feel normal. So.
Yeah, no, nothing wrong with that at all. We've talked about that, like you said, we've talked about that over on that show. It's, you know, again, the boring week versus the exciting, you know, terrible week. I don't need to go to the mailbox and find something in there that you know makes me go. You know? Right.
How about you?
Well, we'll get into it more on the crazy life, of course, but I've been in a real funk the last few weeks. I think I told you that that I realized I've been out of my Wellbutrin?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because like I requested a refill for it, but for some reason my insurance won't pay for a refill for now. Like they're saying that like it's too close to when I got the last one. Which doesn't make any sense because I haven't taken more than the prescribed amount.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's gone on there, but whatever. So I think I have to wait like another, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. Something like that. I don't know. That's just them probably being dumb. I don't know. But I've been in a funk. We talked on the Crazy Life, the last episode, which everyone should go listen to and download and subscribe and all the other stuff, about feeling stuck. And I've really tried the last few days to kind of, keep the mindset of point myself a direction. Here's the goal. Move that way. Even if it's baby steps, move that way. So, part of it is, I need to, I'm at a point that it looks like I need to file bankruptcy to really I need to hit a reset button. I'm at a point I need to hit a reset button in my life. I think then assess what I want to do from there. I think the last few years I've been trying to figure out what I'm going to do eventually once I get back to 0. And it's like, well, you got to get to 0 first, or even, or whatever, however you want to look at it. So it's like, well, let's do that, because why do I keep putting this off, And I think I'm putting that off so I don't have to, so I don't have to make those other decisions, So as I've said on the Crazy Life, remove excuses,
Yeah.
Plus I'm just done with it anyway. I'm so tired of, I think I posted a tweet today, like, I think I said it to you or Tony the other day or something similar to it that was like, open my wallet to see how much, money I have, an IOU falls out that says I owe you moths, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, so, I've always collected stuff. Excuse me. And I don't mean like on a hoarder's way. I mean that like, it was always magic cards, comic books, Pez dispensers, M&M dispensers. Like I've always just collected stuff, And I'm at this point now that it's kind of like, okay, well, if I look around, it's like, well, let's see. How many Pez dispensers do I have on display around me? 0. How many comic book prints do I have hanging on my walls? 0. How many, so I'm going down these lists and it's like, maybe it's time to just sell these things. Because these things have value that can lead to me getting back to even. Much like you were talking about when you were like, I need to do something to get myself back in financial even footing. Sell things if down the road I need or want them, I'll worry about it then, replacing. And I think that's kind of where I'm at, is that it's time to kind of dig into the stuff that, honestly, some of it I even forgot I had. Like there was a poster or a print that I had by a comic artist named Adam Hughes, and I was getting it out the other night, and as I did, I found like 3 others that I had in there too, and I was like, well, there's probably another $150 or so worth of stuff, I totally forgot I had them. I thought I sold them a while ago. So, and it's like, so what I've been doing is I've been sitting down, kind of writing down like all the things I could sell and writing down all the other things that kind of, aside from filing bankruptcy, like after I get to that point, like what's the step after that? Not to overwhelm myself, but it's like, what kind of, so that again, I can keep, as I'm moving toward like bankruptcy, I can also kind of keep moving myself toward that next goal too. So I don't like hit, if I do file bankruptcy and all that goes the way I hope, that I'm not just like standing there afterwards going, okay, for another year. So anyway, enough of that. Like I said, we'll talk more about that over on the Crazy Life, but which everyone should go download and listen to. Do it.
Join us.
Yeah. Or be a jerk and don't.
We'll give you some TMI.
Yeah.
It's not sexy TMI like they do on this here podcast program.
No, not at all.
But it's still a lot of information.
Stuff. Yeah, we talk about a lot of stuff over there.
We do.
Yep.
We do. We also try to talk about solutions.
Yep. So we'll talk about more of that over there.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, it's I feel for you because I know exactly where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, when I was there last year, it was an uncomfortable place, but it was also a good place because it was that place of like, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yep.
And that's that's a good place to be.
Yeah.
That means you're moving at least out of where you're at.
Right. Yep. Oh, and, as I've already told you this, but, I went to the dentist thinking that I had just, a minor crack in a tooth, thinking,
oh, yeah.
gonna get my quick x-ray, come back in and out, real quick, filling. And turns out apparently I need a crown because it's a tooth that I had some issues with a long time ago. So it's basically a tooth that's mostly filling at this point.
Yep.
And there's decay inside of it. So basically my options are going to pretty much become crown or extraction. And of course it can't be one that's off to the side in the back or something. It's got to be one that's it's like right up here. So it's kind of toward the front. So it's one I'd really rather save, but insurances apparently, don't like to do much with crowns. So.
Yeah. And I just did that too at the beginning of the year. I had one that had just been repaired so many times.
Yeah.
And it was like, we talked about it over and over again. It's like, okay, do the crown. And I knew I was just going to have to pay for it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, so the place I go, cause again, I go to a doctor's office and stuff that's geared for lower income and whatnot. So, they've got a discount, whatnot. So I got to fill out some paperwork and take it in and see what it is. I'm going to get an estimate. If the estimate's too terrible, I'll just probably tell them to pull it because or I'll just, cause I don't know. I don't want to just leave it in my mouth and let it just break at some point, or potentially get impacted or something like that. So I don't know. I'll figure it out, but
so you can tell them to pull it. Cause I figured their discount plan was they were going to hand you the discount pliers. Maybe.
No, my insurance will cover. My insurance will cover extraction, but it won't cover crowns. And it's like I get it because like the success rate on crowns sometimes isn't great, and it's considered cosmetic, which is stupid because like in this case, it's like no, if I don't have this done, my other option's pretty much to have the tooth pulled. So it's like. That's not cosmetic at that point,
Yeah.
At that point, that's how I save a tooth.
Yeah. Huh.
So, whatever. Enough of that though. So, that kind of added to my funk a little bit this week, but I will say this, is that even with that, it kind of pissed me off for a little while, to be honest. I got home and I was just kind of like about it because it's like, come on, it's like I'm already trying to dig myself out of a spot. I don't need more dirt thrown on me right now, so, but whatever. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much it for the week for me. So all right. So, I was telling you I have some, breaking news, which was, well, we didn't really talk about, or last week, like right after Tony and I recorded is when it was announced that Iron Fist was canceled. And
yeah, I saw that pop up. Yeah.
They just announced, like right before we recorded tonight, that Luke Cage is not getting another season. Which... Wow. Part of me is going, please give me the Heroes for Hire series that I've been wanting, but I got a feeling we're not going to get it because I just don't see Marvel giving any new series when they've got their streaming service coming out,
Mm-hmm.
I just look for them to but Netflix is the one who canceled it. It wasn't a Marvel cancellation. It was a Netflix.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What's going on.
So those are two pretty, they weren't big in any way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Daredevil seemed to be the one that everyone really talked about, but.
Right. Speaking of, season 3 dropped today.
Excellent.
Yep.
But do you think there's something going on with Netflix? Like they maybe bit off more than they could chew, or
I don't know.
The models turned out to not be so good, or
it's weird because I feel like they probably have made great money off of it. And I don't know. It makes you wonder if there's any sort of gamesmanship here along the, like, well, screw you, Disney, you know, kind of a thing. But at the same time, I can't imagine that they would, you know, bite their nose off or whatever, shoot their nose off, you know, like, I can't think of the freaking phrasing right now.
It has to do with face spiting or something like
that. You know, I can't imagine that they would be spiteful like that when it cost them money. So unless, and they just reported that they had more subscribers than they expected, which is good news as far as like,
oh, true, yeah.
Bottom line goes.
Numbers were huge.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's hard to believe that it would be a cost cutting measure. You know, so I don't know. I'm very curious. A lot of people, I think, are hoping that it's going to lead to a, like Heroes for Hire kind of series. And I'm one of those people. I mean, I wanted that from the beginning. I didn't even want the separate series, but
yeah.
I actually think that would be the smarter move instead of giving each one of those a season 3 is to just start another season and put both characters in that season, you know, and do it that way. But I don't know. Maybe that'll be the case. Cause after they canceled, Iron Fist, they put a thing up on Twitter that showed Danny Rand and it said Immortal on it. So, you know, a lot of people kind of read into that it, you know, may have, you know, that maybe they're not done with the character, they're just done with that series. I don't know. Cause they just announced, I guess, that, Punisher's getting another season and, there's another show that's getting another season. But I figured Jessica Jones will probably get canceled next. Even though Jessica Jones has been one of the most downloaded of all of them. Which still blows my mind.
Why?
It's the least superhero-y show.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. And most people know nothing about that character before that show started. You know? So,
interesting.
Yeah. And I thought the kind of feminist overtone of the show would chase a lot of people. So, I'm glad it didn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm pretty excited to watch Daredevil, though. I'll tell you that. Because Bullseye's in this season. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Pretty excited to see how that goes. Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out down the road, I guess, right?
Yeah, really. I haven't really paid attention to where shows are right now, you know, for a while, and there hasn't been anything new, which tends to get more people fired up and talking about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw like the little bits on Twitter, like, you know, such and such canceled, this and that. But I don't know. It just seems like everything's like, to me, it seems like this genre is in a little bit of a lull right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't know if this is they're trying to shake things up and wake things up, but
yeah, I did also see somebody theorize after Iron Fist got canceled that maybe Netflix was going to try to launch like other characters. Like Moon Knight or Blade or those kind of characters, you know,
Gotcha.
Which I think people would be excited for. Maybe, I don't know about Moon Knight. I mean, I think Moon Knight would be a really interesting character the way they've been doing the comics and stuff. Cause, you know, it's like he's a character in like an insane asylum that in his head, he's basically like gotta save people. But he's like the characters he see, like the interns and stuff are basically like villains to him and different stuff until he gets out.
Uh-huh.
It's a really interesting kind of, you know, demographic or visual in the book that I think would translate really well to the screen. You know, Blade, obviously. I mean,
yeah,
it's vampires. Who isn't going to be in for that, you know? So, we'll see.
Yeah, vampires still popular.
I don't know if they are, but I figured this will work because
seems like
people love Blade, you know, so I think they'll be on board at least to give it a chance.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, I'd be totally curious to see what that's all about.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
I mean, it's a great character.
Yeah. I remember reading a while ago that Wesley Snipes has already said he'd love to play the character again.
Oh, please.
There's no way they'd go with him anyway. They'd go younger, but would be kind of interesting though, wouldn't it? Like, bring him in.
Like, sorry. I'm interested in the character that's not in a wheelchair.
Yeah. Just bring him in as a cameo.
So you're bringing him in as Whistler, huh?
Yeah.
No, he's going to be Blade.
Like, oh.
Like what? Like paring knife?
Yeah. Get back here. He's chasing after him in his rascal, you know.
Butter knife Blade.
Oh. Terrible.
No. Mm-mm. Yeah, he falls into those actors that if I never see him ever again anywhere, I will not miss it at all. I mean, really, even though like I love his movies.
Yeah.
I have many of them.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a point where like personal life douchebaggery and kind of has been come together to make a perfect mix of like, meh.
Yeah.
Who the fuck cares?
Well, that's what I
mean?
When I saw he said that he'd love to play the character again, I remember seeing one of the comments on Twitter where someone's like, of course he would, you know, because of the, you know, the salary basically, you know. And it's like, yeah, there's no way they would bother with him though, because they could pay someone younger way less money. And people don't, I'm sorry, but Wesley Snipes taking back up the mantle of Blade isn't going to bring in that many viewers versus just the fact that Blade is, you know, would be a TV show. Yeah. You know, it's not going to bring in, it'd be different if it was going to bring in a ton of, you know, new viewers or something, but I don't think it's going to do that. So, yeah. One thing that I did think was interesting, and I hope if anyone's listening and you have this opinion, you need to set yourself straight, which was, I saw someone that was like, really, they canceled Luke Cage, but Supergirl and Flash and Arrow and blah, blah, all get another season. Like, first of all, different network. Second of all, different comic book company. Like, you know, see, it's comparing apples to oranges. You cannot do that. So, like, if you're going to compare, stick within the Netflix universe. You know, like, why did Daredevil get a season 3, but Luke Cage didn't? Which is simple, because Daredevil got more downloads. That's probably it. I haven't watched Luke Cage season 2 yet, so I don't even know how it is. So. And
I'm useless because I don't have Netflix. Yeah.
Why'd I bring you on here, Hanno? No.
I don't know.
All right. So, we were talking a little bit before we started recording too about, Tom Holland showed up on Jimmy Kimmel last night, I guess, with the brand new, suit, or the suit from the brand new or upcoming Spider-Man movie. And, I sent you a clip of it.
Yep.
So what'd you think?
It's pretty cool.
You like it?
I like it.
Yeah. You like the darker color?
I mean,
I can't tell if it's black or if it's dark blue. That bugs me. I want to know which it is.
It looks black to me, but
I know it does.
I mean, if you look at Kimmel's suit and you look at that,
yeah,
it's pretty close. Pretty black.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm so used to seeing a change with every single movie.
Yeah, I know.
I guess I'm just used to it.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad that, I'll say this, I'm glad that they didn't make any major changes as far as the actual design of the suit.
Yes.
Like, they, for the most part, kept the suit the same.
Yes.
There are some elements of this design, like a little bit of the redesign in this one that came from, I think from like the, Miles Morales, Spider-Man, but, the dark color on that, it's weird because the first pictures I saw of it, I really didn't like it. And because, like, I was talking with Fluffy Bunny Ash about it last night, and she even mentioned that, like, if you didn't know better, you could almost look at it and think that it was, like, Daredevil's costume, because it looked like it was black and red.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's why I said I wish I knew if it was black or a dark blue, because if it was dark blue, it'd bother me less, because, again, in some of the old Spider-Man cartoons, or comics, I mean, there was a really dark blue, like, again, during the Steve Ditko days, when he had the, you know, the thick outline around the eyes like this suit has. And this suit is very heavily influenced by the Ditko drawing. You know, the spider even that they use is closer to that spider than anything, and whatever. So, you know, it's like, I like it. I like the brighter part of it only because I was so happy that they finally did a Spider-Man that was more Spider-Man. It was more bright and lighthearted. You know?
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
And switching the character into a dark costume, now I'm kind of like, man, please tell me they're not going to switch the overtone to a dark, brooding Spider-Man.
Oh, I hope they don't do that.
Because that last one was so good. I really liked the last one.
Because the Infinity War Spider-Man outfit was very dark too.
Yeah, that was, well, a lot of that has to do with it was metallic, though.
Yeah, it was the Iron Spider whole thing.
Yeah.
But it was still had that contrast. So, I don't know, maybe who knows? I mean.
I don't have as much of an issue with like that kind of thing because it's a complete separate kind of suit. Like when it's like the core suit, it's just, it's such a well-designed suit. They don't need to really mess with it. And I thought they did such a good job just keeping it really simple for the last movie. And like I said, they didn't tweak it that much. I do just wonder why they went completely dark with this one instead of, like, they must not, I wonder if maybe they didn't like the way it shot or something.
I'm kind of,
you know,
now that I'm just flipping through images and stuff, it is kind of weird to not see that blue.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, that's Spider-Man. Is that blue and red?
Yep. That's why I said, aside from that, I really like the design. I don't understand it. But whatever. I mean, it's still, you know, if the movie is good, I won't care. So it's, you know.
Because it's not like when I first saw it, I was like, oh, okay, they changed the colors, just like they've changed the freaking Iron Man and and freaking Batman now has changed a whole bunch. And
right. Well, pretty much any character in every movie, like Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, they change every movie so that they can sell various toys. They can sell a new toy because it's different, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's stupid, but yeah. It's why in like the Funko Pops, if you type in like Iron Man, there's so many, you know, because each movie's got a different one. Then there's been a bunch in the comics already. And yeah, so.
Yeah, I just when I saw it, it was just kind of like, okay, they're doing it more black. You know, because you're right. It's not like they changed I mean, there's still so much of that bold red to it.
Yeah. Which I do like. They didn't screw with that very, too much. They
didn't change the shade of it.
Which I like the, the contrast is good. It's just like I said, I just wonder why they went. I'm curious to see if there's a reason in the movie that it's that way. Like I said, I just hope that it's not Tobey Maguire brooding dark.
Yeah.
Emo bullshit. I hope that it's, I'm hoping that it's more of a throw to like I said, that Ditko design that, that there is. Cause like, I don't know if I have a Spider-Man shirt where he's wearing, the suit he's wearing is that kind of dark blue.
Yeah.
but again, that's why I said it's tough to tell, because the background and stuff here is a dark blue, and it kind of looks like that, but it looks more like the black of Kimmel's suit than it does that blue, so it's, I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, if the movie's good, in the end, I won't give a shit.
It's true. Yeah.
It's just one of those, it's like, oh, well, it's out. We have to critique it. So, yeah. So what do you got? You got any?
I was just remembering when we were talking about that Weezer. I just saw it in the chat. Remember we were watching the Africa video with Weird Al in the comments below?
Yes.
I just wanted to bring this up. If you have not seen, all right, so the Weezer video for their cover of Africa, Weird Al is singing the lead, and we popped across this, but it's the comments below on YouTube that are, I don't know, we must have chatted about that for about a half an hour going through the comments because they were just hilarious.
I'll put that in the show notes too.
Yeah, it's worth everyone go through I was dying. There were some it's been a long time since I saw some actually clever comments in a YouTube comment section that were actually worth reading.
Yeah, and these were positive ones. They weren't like snarky, evil ones.
No, they weren't. No one was being a dickhead or anything like that. They were actually people having some fun.
Yeah,
and having some fun. So I recommend you everyone read the comments. It's funny, and it's actually a fun video too.
Yeah.
So,
well, real quick, speaking of music. Video things. I've now sent that. I sent Heno a video the other day. If anyone hasn't seen it, it was of from a Foo Fighters concert of
another great one.
Dave Grohl pulls was the 11-year-old boy, I think it is, up on the stage with him, 10 or 11, yeah. And he asked the kid if he knows any songs, and the kid says he knows some Metallica, and so he hands him his guitar, and the kid starts playing Enter Sandman, and the band gets into it with him, which was a cool moment, and I was like, oh, that's cool, and I'm pretty much like, this is probably the end of it, and then he asked the kid if he knows any more songs, and the kid goes, yeah, and he starts playing Welcome Home Sanitarium, which is not just a little ditty that you play, that you just casually noodle around on. And I just love Dave Grohl's reaction to it is so good, because he's just like, fuck you, like, oh man.
Doesn't he start like playing Harvester of Sorrow too? Or
yeah, I think
like
so.
That?
Yeah.
It's like, you gotta be kidding.
Yeah, it was great. But then he ends up giving the kid his guitar. And I love when he pulls that I better not see that shit on eBay.
On eBay next week, yeah. Well, it turns out that the kid literally has some like piece of crap guitar that his mom bought him that he's been playing just relentlessly.
Oh wow!
So it's like he hasn't had a good instrument, and
that's
he
awesome.
knows all these songs. Yeah, his mom bought him some just total piece of junk,
right? And
so it's a really cool story.
That's awesome because he's not handed him some like $50 guitar. He's handed him a pretty nice piece of equipment. Body. Yeah. I love it too, because he's like, the tour is almost over. Why the fuck shouldn't I give him the guitar or something like that? So that was pretty cool of him to do. Go figure. See so many of these kind of things. I love when he pulls people up into the crowd. There's so many of these where he's pulled somebody up, and it's just been the funniest or just such a surprise what happens afterwards. Yeah. So yeah, if you haven't seen that,
good stuff.
I gotta find the video again, but I'll dig it out and post that in the show notes as well.
So I came across something that I just wasn't sure how to feel about this. A woman has developed crocheted nose warmers. It looks like a fucking banana hammock.
That's weird.
Just smaller. And as a winter fashion accessory.
So you're going to walk around looking like your dude from Digital Underground, basically? My name is Humpty.
Seriously.
I mean...
And I just, at first I was like, oh, well, okay, why, they make full face masks, like I have one when I ride my motorcycle.
Oh my God, these things are ridiculous.
So I figure, I mean, if you're more of a shower than a grower, this might also work as your own, as a banana hammock. If the banana hammock options might be a little too robust for you,
right? Or if you want to do some cool, like Incredible Hulk thing, maybe.
Yeah, really just bulge, yeah,
just tear it open while you're like, hey, check this out,
Yeah,
I don't know. I got nothing.
And now they go for about $10, which is probably a good deal. But like, who the fuck would wear that? It's just so weird looking. I don't know.
I feel like somebody should buy these for us. I'd totally wear one.
Oh boy, that's going down. Mm-hmm. The other story I saw was the girl when marijuana was legalized in Canada. A little Girl Scout went right in front of a store and just sold some fucking cookies.
Smart move. Same thing happened here when
smart girl.
Yep. Same thing happened here when it happened. That's a real smart move.
Yeah, she sold out of her 30 boxes in like a heartbeat.
Yep.
It's like good for you.
That's thinking on your toes right there.
Yep, exactly. Mm-hmm. Now I do have something that's somewhat controversial, but it starts with a story. So have you ever seen those where they'll like put a glass walkway over some unbelievably really tall drop?
Mm-hmm.
And I know they do it mostly in other countries.
Yeah.
But all of them, like it'll be like some ravine.
Mm-hmm.
That's a mile in space, and they put a glass walkway across it. And I'm just like, nope, no fucking way.
Right. Yeah, I've been up in the like in the CN Tower in Toronto, and it's got a glass floor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'm not afraid of heights.
Right.
But I'm afraid of equipment or things, like I have to go on a lift inside of our tennis courts to get to a piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And I can literally sit on the piece of equipment on the roof. I can hang over it. I can roll all around that thing and I'm not afraid. But on that lift, I'm scared to death because I'm trusting this piece of equipment.
Right.
Right. Like I can sit on the edge of a roof that's, I don't care how tall it is, and I'll sit on the edge of the roof. But you put a railing up there that's supposed to keep me from falling, and I am scared to death because there's something I have to trust.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So these glass things freak me out. Well, evidently in China, one of these mountain walkways, the glass pane shattered.
Oh, my. No thanks.
And people kept walking across it.
Okay, that's pretty crazy.
They like covered it with a piece of paper. It's still open to the public.
Well, they just put a piece of paper over it and wrote like totally not broken. Oh, all right. Oh my goodness.
Like they said that the bridge was closed, but tourists were still like, whatever, looks good. I got to go out there.
Wow.
And now granted, it's only the top layer.
No.
It's like a multiple layer, but still it is like a shattered, spider web piece of glass. You are now walking on all of them.
Literally walking on broken glass?
Yeah. Wow.
Playing some Annie Lennox while you're doing it?
Tony's here after all, isn't he? So this is what's going to bring me to the controversial part.
Okay.
So my sister sends me an email today talking about some movie called fucking Free Willy or whatever it was. It wasn't Free Willy, but Free Solo.
Okay.
Which I was like, oh, is this a follow-up to Han getting released from the Carbonite?
Sweet.
No, it's about the first guy to free climb some, what is that, peak in Yosemite or whatever it is.
Big peak.
No, it's El Capitan or whatever. Anyhow, rock climber, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was going to be my guess.
Yeah. So free solo. So it's the first solo climb up El Capitan, I think it is.
Right.
And it looks like a really interesting movie, you know, one of those documentaries. But the first thing I did is I went onto his Wikipedia page to see if he has a wife and children.
Yeah.
Because I am fucking sick and tired of these assholes doing death-defying shit
Yeah.
and leaving people to scrape their bodies up off the bottom of a valley floor somewhere.
Well, yeah, and that's a warm area, right? So they actually do scrape them up.
Yeah.
Like in the cold areas, they just leave them, don't they?
They just, yeah, cause, well, yeah, like up Everest, yeah,
Yeah.
the frozen bodies just left because, well, nobody has the energy to bring the damn
Right.
body
That's
back.
what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's this like we see it. This goes back decades. Like the first guys to do the bat wing flying, and you know one of them ends up into a rock or whatever.
You're talking about the thing from the movie Waiting, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's like and then wife and kids.
Yeah.
Or wife and kid. And I'm like, and I send a response back to my sister. I'm like, it's nice to see that he lives by himself. He goes around the country in his van. That's what he lives in.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's, so nobody's sitting there scraping his dead body off the ground. Cause they literally just had a couple of guys fall. They were doing they're doing this new one. It's called speed climbing. And it was up in, whatever is again in Yosemite. And they were speed climbing and something happened and they went down.
Oh my.
Dead. 2 of them dead.
Wow.
They have no idea what happened. And it's like, again, wife, kids, da-da-da-da-da.
So the point of speed climbing, I'm assuming, is exactly what it says, right? Just to climb as fast as you can, right?
As you can.
Which seems
means
safe.
You're taking all sorts of risks.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm just like, that's fine and dandy if you're, it's already bad enough that you have family.
Yeah.
But if you have, I don't know. I just wanted to throw it out there because
I'm totally with you on that. Yeah.
Because I used to I would go to the Banff Film Festival. I didn't go to Banff for the film festival. They do the Banff Film Tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd go to these because there's a lot of these types of things, whether it's the flying wing shit or skydiving or blah, blah, blah. But it's an activity where if you screw up, you're dead.
Right.
And if you have some sort of, I just think it's irresponsible.
Yeah. Like you said, it's bad enough if you just have any sort of a family. Like if you're a single person, the fact that any family is going to have to come scrape your ass off the ground, sucks. But if
and then tell us all that he died doing what he loved, which I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. What's that, being flattened? Yeah.
And and I really don't want to even see these shows anymore. I really don't. Like, I was kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of done. And what was interesting was reading his Wikipedia. He and 5 other climbers, they used to be sponsored by Cliff, Cliff Bar.
Mm-hmm.
Cliff stopped all sponsorships.
Really?
Because of the risk involved.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I get that. We're paying you to go kill yourself. Or possibly.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I'm glad. I because that's kind of how I've always looked at it. It's why, like I jokingly, like my mom was watching, one of those shows where it was like, what do you do if you're trapped on, when you're out hiking and blah. And I'm like, real simple way to prevent that. Don't go out in these, stay on the damn trail. Don't go off some crazy way, like, but it's always these assholes that think they know better and got to do something crazy. It's like, there you go. It's like, I only have so much sympathy for you. It's different if something happens and you end up like, I don't know, you step somewhere and you fall down somewhere and whatever, or whatever, you're being chased by a bear, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And you get off the trail. Okay. But yeah, I don't,
freak storms happen, freak avalanches happen.
Yes.
And there's also all the time, and I know it happened a few years ago in Oregon where, record snow year, backcountry guys, they're always experienced. They're always experienced, and they don't do the one thing that I learned in my basic Avalanche class that I took, which is find the reasons not to go.
Oh, right.
That's what they teach you.
Really? That's interesting.
Is to literally have confirmation bias to not do what you want to do. Yeah, right. Tell that to some adrenaline fucking junkie.
Right.
They are not looking for the reason not to go. They're
Right.
looking at how amazingly epic it's going to be. Dude, it's epic.
Right.
Once in a lifetime.
You know how good this is
Nine
going to
of you
look
are-
on my YouTube video or channel?
Exactly. Yeah. Now 9 of you are dead because you got pureed when the avalanche went through a forest.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like, was it worth? You know, that's why I went. I did the class. I'll probably never go backcountry skiing,
Yeah.
even if I'm with some guys that are total that I know that are pros, which there's plenty of them up here.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyhow,
Wow.
and I was going to get off his soapbox and quit ranting.
Well, here I have something that is ridiculous. So somehow I completely forgot to bring this up on last week's show, which I don't know how. This should have been all we talked about. Which was at a show. Shaggy 2 Dope from ICP tried to dropkick Fred Durst off of stage during a Limp Bizkit set at Camden, New Jersey's Rock Allegiance Festival. He totally missed. Like, he just whiffed it, right? Well, Limp Bizkit's DJ Lethal was pretty pissed at the attempt, going on Twitter, Twitter tirade calling Shaggy a bitch-ass clout chaser, which he's right about. Now, though, cooler heads have prevailed thanks to an unlikely mediator, former wrestling star, and the number one reel, the Iron Sheik. As the PRP points out, the Sheik sent out a tweet that, while mocking Shaggy's failed flying move, called for peace between his brothers. The Shaggy 2 Dope, you're a good man, but your dropkick is fucking drizzling shits, he wrote. Also, at DJ Lethal is my brother. I don't like to see my brothers fight Bubba. That was apparently all Lethal needed to keep his blood from boiling, as he responded on Instagram with laughter and acceptance of a truce. Thank you, Mr. Iron Sheik, for making a funny situation even funnier, Lethal wrote, adding, #truce, we don't need any more violence in these times. There are bigger issues in the world. Sheik responded to Lethal's post, writing, Bubba, I love the peace, not the war, unless the son of a bitch jabroni deserved to get suplexed. This way the Shaggy good men. God bless you. So.
That is awesome.
Yep. See? Iron Sheik, you know.
The Iron Sheik. Yeah.
Hand him a peace prize. It was, like, if you haven't looked this up, the link I have doesn't have I don't think has the drop kick attempt. It might. Oh, yeah, it does. Okay. It's terrible. It's pretty awful. And, yeah. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. The best part is that had I talked about this originally, it wouldn't have included the Iron Sheik part. It would have been the missed drop kick, which was still in itself plenty because it was, like I said, a terrible drop kick. And, I mean, it's pretty sad if you're trying to make your name on, you know, trying to get some publicity by drop kicking Fred Durst. I mean,
but you kind of got to understand that, because who wouldn't want to drop kick Fred Durst?
Also true.
I mean, that's the whole thing, is like, it would be kind of sad and also awesome story to begin with, just because, well, Fred Durst and failed drop kicks. But the fact that the Iron Sheik mended fences,
right,
brought the family together, made love, not war.
Yep. It would have been kind of funny, though, if he had landed it and then just Limp Bizkit and ICP just all out brawl.
Yeah.
And then it like culminates in, I forgot what they call their wrestling promotion. Cause ICP has their own wrestling promotion. Like to have a match between like the four of them, have a tag match you know.
Yeah.
If Iron Sheik got around better, it'd be great to have him as like the special guest referee. That'd be fantastic.
Actually, it would be awesome. Yeah.
Actually,
So great.
or just on commentary, because I'd rather just listen to him commentate on it.
Just love Iron Sheik throws down the wisdom.
Yeah.
And cooler heads prevail.
Yep. There you go. See, that's all the world needed. And just there you go.
There's
Now-
a God after all.
So, yep. So now on to some incredibly troubling news. Not as much for you, but for me and Tony. Climate change to cause global beer shortage, study says.
Wow.
So that's right, people. If you're going out to vote, which you all should be doing, make sure you vote for people who believe in climate change. That way we can save the beer, damn it. It's the number one issue pressing voters this election season. No, it makes sense though, cause it's, it says that, the main ingredient in beer is barley. It's sensitive to extreme drought and heat. So climate change will cause undue pain for all of those who love the lager because it will decrease barley yield crops, which means prices of beers is going to go up. And you know what that means? Time to drink more whiskey. No, it won't. That won't help.
Of course.
Yeah. So
This is a sad, sad state of affairs.
I don't like it, man. I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad. Pretty sad.
But one more reason to get out and vote. Beer.
That's right. There's an episode of Married with Children where that's the only reason that Al registers to vote. It's because they're going to impose a beer tax. It's like 6 cents or something like that.
I should have told the mayor that that's my vision for Haley.
Beer tax. Yeah. Just more beer.
Or a beer tax. Just to piss people off.
Oh, man. What are you doing? Don't make Tony and I have to come out there and protest against you.
Stirring shit.
Boo! Every time you come out of anywhere, we just follow you around.
So good. Around. It's like the freaking the on Monty Python, the guy with the coconuts to make the sound of the horses.
Yeah.
There's Tony and Brian. Boo. Oh, that's great.
Go back to England, you tea lover. Oh, man. But here's something I thought was really kind of cool for, at least for this area, and oddly enough also sort of ties into the story before that, which is that 7 Detroit breweries are creating Faygo beer flavors for the Fall Beer Festival, which is here in a couple weeks.
Do they list the flavors?
They do. And for, if anybody doesn't happen to know, the reason why I said it tied in is ICP is a big fan of Faygo, and as much as I hate ICP, they've probably kept Faygo in business. And Faygo's from this area, so. Sorry, I gotta dig through here. Dang it. I can't find it. Oh no.
Oh no, Mr. Bill.
Oh my.
Oh no.
All right, here we go. Okay. So, oh no, that was before. Ugh, that sounds disgusting. All right. So, Traffic Jam and Snug is making a Red Pop Kettle Sour. This next one's the one that, man, I mean, I had to change my pants after I read this, except for the name, which makes me want to cry. Founders, my favorite brewery, Detroit, is making Scotch Cherry Whoop Whoop, which is a fucking ICP reference, inspired by Rock and Rye, which is my favorite Faygo pop, a rye Scotch ale with dark cherry and vanilla, and those dark cherries, you can bet your ass, are going to be Michigan cherries. Because Michigan cherries are the shit.
Motherfuckers.
Yeah. And I bet that's going to be so good. Anyway, Eastern Market Brewing Company's making a Moon Mist IPA. Brew Detroit's making Cotton Candy Berliner Weiss. Detroit Beer Company has created a 60-40 Radler. Atwater is brewing a double dirty blonde with Faygo orange and coriander, baby. Yeah. And Batch Brewing Company seems to be going the extra Detroit mile with its better made grape Faygos, using the Detroit-based potato chips in the beer as well. Better Made's a potato chip company. Yeah. Makes me sad I'm not going to the beer fest.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit up Founders and be like, hey, you going to have that rocket? I'm going to pull the old Tyrone Biggums and be like, y'all got any of them Rockin' Rise? Scratching my neck. I want to try that so bad. Scotch ales are my favorite beer. Rockin' Rise is my favorite Faygo pop. And I love like cherry and Scotch ale together. I've had a few at different beer fests and it's such a good pairing. I may have to just like sneak my stuff. Yep. Anywho. So anyone who happens to be going to the beer fest, you know, good luck getting it because it's probably going to run out fast. Especially the Founders one because Founders. Yeah. Do you have any other story stuffs?
No,
Mr.
I'm all tapped out. Get it? Tap.
I see what you did there. I see
wrestling.
And beer and tapping. And
beer and taps and
tapping.
Yeah.
Like tap dancing. Yeah.
Tap
Wait.
that ass.
Yeah. All them
tap
tappings.
dancing. Yeah.
All right. So I've got a real quick shut up and take my money.
Whoa.
Shut up and take my money.
See, look at that. That's what I'm looking for.
On the spot.
Bam. And no more than said it and you're lightning quick. So I've been wanting in the Funko Pops every time they post a thing and they're like, hey, what Star Wars pop should we make next? Every time, and I shit you not, I'm always like, Han and Carbonite. Every time. Finally, they're making Han and Carbonite. Yeah, and he's laying flat and it's got Boba Fett behind him, like in the movie when he's just kind of pushing him as they're walking. It's part of the... They have they have a subscription box that's like Star Wars stuffs that it's an Amazon exclusive, whatnot. You can still order them. I'll have the link in the show notes. I think it's only through, actually I don't know when it's.
Oh, that's awesome. That 3-pack.
Yeah. I don't know when the for sale date is up, but it's soon. I know that. Anywho, you'll still be able to find them on eBay after that. But anyway, the box is like $30 and shipping's free on it. Anyway, but finally, I've been wanting that. That is like one of the pops I've been wanting since they first started making them. You know, because seriously, it's like I don't know why it took so dang long for them to make it. So
what's the red one?
The red one? I didn't see a red one.
I saw a red one. And it's got, remember when, Leia dresses up she's got the
bikini?
No. She's got the thermo grenade.
Like the bounty hunter disguise?
Yeah, she's in the bounty hunter outfit before she gets captured.
Yeah.
There's a pop of that. Bouche Princess Leia not included, it says, but it's showing a red Han and Carbonite.
Oh, you should send me that link. I haven't seen that.
Let me see what this is.
Because the only one I saw was just it was like silver and then the Boba Fett. Anyway, that's my shut up and take my money for this week, because
that's amazing.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll bother with the box, but I might just try to just straight out buy the pop someday.
Oh, it's oh, no way. Yeah, let me just take this. Anyhow.
Yeah.
It's a variant, it looks like.
Interesting.
Interesting. That is fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's I'm sure that'll be a fairly popular one.
Yeah.
I would think anyway,
Unfreeze transition version. Neat.
Oh, man, unless maybe you can flip it over. Or something, I don't know. We'll have to look. Anyway, we should probably move on, because we're running
Yeah.
a little long here.
A little bit.
Alright, let's do some Dude Mountain.
All right, let's serve this baby up.
Ooh, do you have that up, or should I?
I do have it up.
Okay, cool, because I didn't.
I have a feeling that starting at the bottom of the pile, that Gaga James is not playing anymore.
Left the building, if you will.
I think he has, which means I don't think he can really be down there sopping up the broth.
It's part of the broth now.
He is. You know what? I think that's it. He has become one with the broth. He has merely dissolved into it.
Oh my, that's a terrible place to be.
So I'm making a judgment call here, and I'm going to say that USS Mangravy has now taken up the position of Atlas,
Wow.
standing there holding up the mountain as it dribbles all over. Luckily for USS Mangravy, also known as our good pal Big Dev, right above him is Gotham Lights Steph. So, I mean, if you're going to get man juice all over you, if it's dripped off a lovely lady like Steph before,
That's a good filter. That's, yeah.
yeah.
There's way worse filters through our list, for sure.
Yeah, way worse filters.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the bottom of Dude Mountain. At the top, our top 5. Number 5, Elite, Gene from Hobie. Number 4, Gimmick Team Underdogs. Number 3, tied for second, Gimmick Team Fuzzy and Fatty. The little fuckers are disappointing me, motherfuckers. Score the highest score and then get a couple of 4s and a 5.
Yep.
Little shit.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm talking to you. I went and kicked him after that.
That's
like, God damn it.
No animals were harmed in the making of this podcast.
No. And, hey.
I'm not a racist.
Either.
Right.
Number 2, Gimmick Team Madden 16 picks.
Right.
Salty Ryan.
Which I believe was the only team that got double digits last week, right?
Yep.
Yep.
You are.
Yeah.
Yep. And up at number
Terrible.
1, Besotted Geek.
Yep.
Taking the lead.
Yep. In the right place to be on Dude Mountain at the top.
Yep.
Feeling the sunshine and the air betwixt your buttocks.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where's your actual picking team? Oh, there you are.
No, let's not
Number
talk
9.
about that. Yeah.
you got a 9 score.
Yeah, I was gonna say actually I had a decent week. Yeah. Did pretty well over on DraftKings with that with my picks too. Got me a whopping 14 cents this week.
All right.
I was in 27th place.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I was tied with like 8,000 people, so
Yep.
14 cents. All right.
So there you have it, people.
Dude!
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess now it's time to do the Q of the W.
I almost said pop out the plugs, but that's a different podcast.
No. Does that podcast exist anymore?
Hell yeah, it does.
Okay. I haven't listened to it
still-
in like 10 years, so I don't know.
Fucker.
I'm not. Listen.
On behalf of Dev, I'm saying you're a fucker.
I told you, I do one podcast at a time and I listen to all of them. I have 50 shot of histories to get through, and I'm not exaggerating. It's next on the docket.
There's been some great ones lately too.
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
I like to listen to a bunch of those at a time. I do. I usually listen to like 5 or 6 of them. So that one I'll burn through pretty quick. I just need to catch up. All right. So last week I asked some question that I don't remember now. And I forgot to pull up the Q of the W stuff, so I'm just going to babble to kill some time here.
It had to do with the one thing that you got from your parents.
Oh, right. Yeah, it was the...
Here we go.
Yeah, it was bad trait, or what was the worst trait you got from your parents? Something like that.
Yeah, wasn't it specifically like one word too, or
I don't remember.
Word or something? I'm looking at Facebook right now, and I don't even think you guys ever posted it. I'm only finding the historical figures one.
Oh, I just realized I missed a Q of the W answer from Jeannie from the week before, which was the, other than weed, name something that, you don't think should be illegal. And she had said prostitution, which I agree with. I don't think it should be illegal either.
I agree with that too, yeah.
You should,
consenting adults and all.
Yeah. Tax the shit out of it and regulate the fuck out of it. All right. Dang it. Where did it go? There we go. Okay. Now I've got it. So the answer from you was negative trait from your parents, alcoholism. Though I can argue my solution is positive, but that's my work. For last week, Trump dick kicks. Announce intention to Secret Service and they let you buy to deliver kicks to the dick because legal. I can live with that. That wouldn't stop you. Philip, or at Philco816, our pal Philip, also of Dude Mountain, says, I'm impatient as fuck when it comes time to go somewhere. Essentially, I am ready to leave well before we need to and get annoyed when no one else is.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
You're just herding cats the whole time.
Yeah. Like, come on. Do you have any on Facebook?
There was... you didn't even post the question. Couldn't even find it.
Oh, yeah, that's weird as shit. Okay. Oh, well. I don't remember seeing any answers to it, though. Just should have posted, but anyway. It
would have been linked to something else?
Yeah. Well,
Gotcha.
it's because, like, whenever I post something to Twitter with a certain hashtag, it posts over on Facebook, so it should have posted, but anyway. At Under Thumbpod says...
Great podcast?
Lack of drive in life. For example, I can't be arsed. At Reasons Are, from the Reasons Are Several podcast. Procrastination. Sorry, I've been meaning to send this in since Sunday. And at Grim...
Here's my drummer.
Yeah. At Grim Horror says Catholicism and being a Democrat. It was hard fought battle, but now I am cured of both. Hashtag stay salty, peace signs and beers. That's what I got on the Twitter. I may have more. I gotta scroll through here, so. Henno, fill the time.
Quick, vamp.
Yeah. Oh, man. I actually think that's all of them, but...
Well, if it is, then...
I like what you got. Good job.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I do have one more. I forgot. I asked my mom, just for curiosity's sake.
Awesome.
And she said perfectionism. Because she said that her stepmom growing up was like everything had to be
just right.
Just right, yeah. So, and she always hated it. So there you go. So that's what we had for last week. So this week you actually have the Q of the W.
Yeah, I got I found a funny little story about a tourism ad for Nebraska where they tout Nebraska as flat, boring landscape.
Reminds me of in Wayne's World when they're in Delaware. It's like, yay, Delaware.
Yes. Delaware, exactly. And so they're going for this whole honesty thing. You know, it says that the state is famous for our flat, boring landscape, contrasted by an image of people leaping across rock formations in Nebraska's Toad School Geologic Park. But they're trying to set out create a brand that's rooted in the core values and that are shared by Nebraskans, such as honesty and the mindset of transparency and purity and simplicity. So it made me think about it's like, okay, well, if you were to describe your state in an honest fashion for an ad campaign, what would your tagline be?
Man. You know, and it's funny because you actually told me what this was going to be earlier, and I've been thinking about it the whole time.
You didn't even give it a thought.
And it's like I want to be such a smartass about it too, but it's like I don't know. You know, because I want it to be like Michigan. We're not cool enough to be a glove. And it's like, you know, because I'm from Ohio. And it's, you know, I remember like, I can't remember what TV show or movie it was where it's basically like, welcome to Ohio. It's just like Indiana and Pennsylvania or something to that effect, you know. And it's really accurate, except for the hills in Pennsylvania. Really and truly, like, I think for Michigan, it would end up being like, you know, Michigan, it's not as bad as you think it is. Like, because so many people, when I'm like, blah, blah, Michigan, and they're like, oh, and it's like, the state's not that bad. Like, it's, you know, and even Detroit, like most people, when you tell them like when I'm like, oh, I'm about like an hour from Detroit, and they're like, oh, and it's like, yeah, there's part of Detroit that, yeah, nobody wants to be near, you know, it's just not a good area. But there's also part of Detroit that's got like super hipster like speakeasies that are hidden in walls and all this stuff. And they just built a brand new hockey arena, and, you know, there's all these trendy restaurants up there, and, you know, various, you know, bars and different stuff. So it kind of just depends on where you go in, you know, like any city really. You know, any big city you go to, I'm sure, you know, Chicago, I'm sure parts of Chicago for sure you don't want to go into, or New York or anywhere, you know. So I think that's what I'm going to go with, because it is brutally honest that it's, you know, it's not as bad as you think it is. And there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of really beautiful scenery in Michigan. If you're into that, I'm not, but a lot of people are. So, you know, there's a ton of that stuff. There's like open, what do you call them? Those open parks where you can get away from all the light pollution and actually see stars and that kind of stuff. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff that people don't realize, I think, goes on in this state that, that does go on in this state, you know. I think everyone thinks of Michigan as Detroit, you know.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, and it isn't. Yeah. It's really, like, that's only a little part of the state, you know.
Yeah,
there's so much of the state that's nothing like Detroit. And even that's not, you know, like calling stuff like Detroit, to me, it's not a full-on slur unless you're like, you know, referring to a crime rate or something. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. How about you?
I'd have to say something like, you know, it's Idaho. Come for the potatoes, but stay for the Aryan Nation.
I mean, I could have went something similar to that too. I mean,
we have northern Idaho is like, I mean, the whole Ruby Ridge. I mean, you want to talk about anti-tax types, anti-government. I mean, northern Idaho is the hotbed of that shit. I mean,
there was a good amount of that up like northern Michigan. I don't know for sure if it's still there or not now, but there was a lot of it going on for a long time. There was a lot of militia kind of stuff going on up there.
Yeah. And what was his name? Furman, Mark Furman.
Yeah.
You know, he was from Northern Idaho, and after the whole OJ thing, it's like he went and became part of that whole anti-tax, survivalist stuff. You know, I'm sure every state has it.
You'd think if anybody would be pro, like, the system, he would be the one. Because look what it did for him.
Yeah, but he went up there and he left California and he made himself a name as this kind of conspiracy nut kind of guy. And
I guess so.
I mean, I was trying to come up with a way to tie in our latest state douchebag who said that women who get abortions should get the death penalty, but
Jeebus. Yeah,
you know, but once again, that was on a program. It was on a radio program where they had the conservatives, and this was Northern Idaho. I mean, that's you know, we have some serious religious freaking nuts in this state.
That's something, man. Wow.
Like when they were discussing, you know how like you've done camera appointments, you know, like video appointments and stuff. So they were talking about video appointments for women's reproductive health and stuff. And a state legislator actually asked if they could put a camera down a woman's mouth and give her a gynecological exam.
Oh my God.
And I'm not kidding.
Be like, hold on, let's see if we can give you a colorectal exam that way as well.
Yeah.
Let's see how that goes. It's a big camera too. Like we're going to use, oh jeez.
So you thought Idaho was all potatoes, but
wow, definitely not sweet ones.
There's we have other potatoes too. That should be our slogan.
We have other potatoes too. Oh boy. All right.
So there you have it. What's your state slogan? Honesty.
Show me what you got.
Wow. Oh boy. All right. Well, with that, I guess, you know, as always, real quick, I want to also mention that, you know, as I've been saying for the last couple weeks, if you'd like something drawn by me, and you'd like to help the show out, please head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/saltylanguage, or go over to our website and click the Patreon link there. Anything over $5, I will do, some sort of drawing, and, you know, the more you, throw at us, the more more detailed it'll be and what have you. So far, apparently no one gives a shit, and I love it, and that's a great boost for my ego, so thank you. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, so there's that. Head over to saltylanguage.com. You can get all the past episodes, all the enthusiasts that we've done. All our social media links are over there. You can see the networks we're part of, like the Tangent Bound Network, and Danger! Watch your back! Danger! Entertainment. Thank you for not hitting, yeah, boy! Like, it's so nice to work with a professional, you know? It's like, jeez. Oh, man.
I'm surrounded by my hacks.
Yep. Oh, man. If you'd like to suggest the Q of the W, you can email us at saltylanguage@gmail.com. If you'd like to hit us up on Twitter, you can find us at salty_language. You can find me at Stunami. How about you, Heno?
You can find me on Twitter at IdaHeno. Just put in El Heno, and that's where I be. And we'll have another episode on Gotham Orville Lights, the third in our it's the Agnes Rain series of erotica written by Zigzag Claiborne, or actually this is the Thor MF Jones. So that'll be probably released the same week as this episode. So
Nice.
check us out over there, Orville, Gotham Lights, and then we'll have our last Orville Lights sometime in the beginning of December, and at the end of December, the Orville's supposed to kick in, and Gotham's supposed to kick in January, and
You guys will be all sorts of busy then.
yeah, then we'll be kicking it back into gear. Right now we're being lazy as fuck.
Then it'll be Gortham Lights.
So perfect. Gorville Lights.
Oh man.
We are going to have some pretty cool episodes for the last season of Gotham because we are going to have a special guest on the show.
Oh yeah?
A very special guest. And so really looking forward to this. It'll be fun. It's going to be a real insider look at the show.
Oh, nice.
Tease! Tease!
Sweet. All right. Well, la-di-da. Also check Henno and I out over on The Crazy Life. You can find us anywhere that you download your podcasts already. We talk about wellness, mental illnesses, just, Henno talks about, recovery, alcoholism, all that kind of stuff. So we just talk about our journeys from that point forward and what we're struggling with, succeeding with, whatever it is. So if you're into that, please come check us out, or, tell somebody that may be interested. If you would, that'd help us. We'd appreciate it. Same with this show, please rate, review, subscribe, get those 5-star ball washes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shine that baby up nice and bright.
That's why Tony's not here. He's so sad about not getting his balls washed. Oh man. Anyway.
I'll dip my nuts in marinara so they could get a taste of home. Fucking love that movie.
Man. See, you talk about dipping your balls in something, and I have a state flashback. So, I feel like I'm forgetting something. We're also on all the other social media stuff. So all the links are on the website if you want those, because I don't remember our different names. Tony usually says those, and I forget them. So.
There's an underscore in there somewhere.
Yeah, on some of them, and it's not on the others because people are dumb and took our name before we got to. All right. So with that, I guess have a beer, you'll be fine. And do it while you can, because according to CNN, global warming is going to steal all our beers.
Yeah.
So hurry.
Yeah, hurry, have that beer or you won't be fine.
That's right.
Yeah.
Too expensive.
Exactly. And stay more Brian.
I like that. That's a good plan. It's a good plan. No, it's really not. No.
Yeah.
And
stay salty. Whatever.
Yeah, I guess so. If that's what you want to do.
Fine, if I have to. God damn
it. Yeah.
Fucking knowledge.
Huh. And make sure your drop kicks all land.
Yes.